स्वदेश यानी अपना देश, हमारा हिंदुस्तान। बरसों की गुलामी ने सोने की चिड़िया के पर कतर दिए। नतीजा, आजादी के बाद अपॉर्चुनिटीज की तलाश में कितने ही इंडियंस विदेशों में जा बसे। जब कामयाबी मिली, कुछ वहीं के होकर रह गए, पर कुछ वापस लौटे अपने वतन, अपने हमवतनों के बीच।
स्वदेश में हमारी मुलाकात हो रही है मिस लीना आशर से, जिन्होंने भारत के एजुकेशन सिस्टम में एक सकारात्मक बदलाव लाने का प्रयास किया। लीना के बचपन के कुछ साल अफ्रीका में गुजरे और उसके बाद उनकी प्राइमरी स्कूलिंग इंग्लैंड में हुई। उसके बाद 2 साल उन्होंने मुंबई के जमनाबाई स्कूल में भी तालीम ली। क्रिकेट से बेहद लगाव रखने वाली लीना हमेशा से ही भारत वापस आकर यहाँ के एजुकेशन सिस्टम के लिए कुछ करना चाहती थी। उनका मानना था कि हर बच्चा पढ़ना चाहता है, जरूरत है पढ़ाई को इंटरेस्टिंग बनाने की।
So, in Australia from the age of 9 to for about 18-19 years after that. I think I read Pollyanna as a child, and the sort of impact that had on me, that, you know, your cup is always half full and always look on the bright side. I deferred my studies for a year. 1 year had a big impact on my life, because in the 1 year I was here, I was teaching in schools, just voluntary teaching in schools, and I think that's the first time it had such a huge impact on me that, you know, that our schooling system is outdated, it's rote-based, and it's very stressful for kids. And that's when I first realized how distorted our Indian education system was in those days. And I think that's when I silently made a pact to come back to India and said that I'm going to change the system of education in India. I think innately as a teacher, I just know instinctively that if you can come to the kids with anything that's academic, but through a high interest area, and if I can just capture their imagination there, then I can teach them anything from that. And that's a lot of how my Kangaroo Kids or my Billabong High schooling systems have been set up. We completely create the curriculum from a child's point of view.
लीना 1990 में भारत लौटी। लीना यहाँ एक स्कूल बनाने का इरादा रखती थी, पर ना तो उनके पास बिजनेस का कोई एक्सपीरियंस था और ना ही कोई ठोस प्लान। अपने पिताजी की मदद से उन्होंने 1993 में अपना पहला स्कूल स्थापित किया।
I remember the anxiety because I, kept telling my family that just give me the opportunity, I'll run the best school ever. I remember the first school I ever did. I didn't sleep for 2 months before the first school started. I'd just kind of fall asleep out of absolute exhaustion and wake up 2 hours later with a mixture of anxiety and fear and excitement and all the emotions mixed together as the dream, the visions started getting crystallized. That school featured in Inside Outside so many years ago just because it was so uniquely done. Today all preschools are sort of imitating what we did in those days, but in those days having a bright, cheerful, welcoming, happy space for kids was something new. Starting in 1993 and getting the first batch of 10 kids was a hard task. It was in the days when schools were getting kids ready formally, academically, for entrance exams into schools. And there was this huge rat race thing, interviews and written tests for entrance. Starting with those 10 kids, then it became really, really easy because other kids developmentally weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And my kids were, and were going into school loving learning and full of confidence and ready to take on challenges and not scared to venture. So they were sort of accelerating a great deal faster than other kids. We built from that to 60 schools with no advertising, no focus on brand building, pure word of mouth. My vision is not for the elite. Obviously, when setting up a Kangaroo Kids or setting up a Billabong High, you have to make the money work for you. But then how to take that money that you make and keeping your investors happy, but then taking that into places like Dharavi and other orphanages and things that we adopt, and trying to reach out to as many kids as possible that are not as fortunate. It was also a challenge. One of the big components of our curriculum is empathy building, because in India I truly believe that if we do not as a nation start building the empathy, and we don't have children actually being consciously aware of children who are less privileged and learning how to connect with them, not in the sense of handing out a 10 rupee note. Connect it all ways back to the curriculum. So if we're doing senses with our grade 1 children, and we get them to understand how important the senses are to us, and that there are some children that don't have, for instance, sight, and within that we get children to do chores at home and raise funding and buy braille kits, and trying to build a compassion and empathy for the India of tomorrow, because I truly believe if we are to bring the India of tomorrow up to another level, to another state of consciousness, we'll have to start with these kids. Initially, I did everything. I taught, I took the kids to the bathroom, I was the administrator, I wrote curriculum, and gradually started getting joined by a great group of people who started believing in the vision and taking it on. The growth of schools initially came from parents. My first preschool franchise that began was started by a mother whose child was in my school, and she saw this great change in her child, and she said, if only we could offer that to more kids. So she started one center. My Hyderabad center, my Delhi centers, Calcutta, they all have some connection to Kangaroo Kids as a parent, and then wanting to take it on from there. So that's the initial group of preschools. Some of the challenges, as I've said, numerous challenges in getting a lot of documentation done and permissions and things like that. Yeah, it's been a great journey. Lots of stepping stones or stumbling blocks along the way, or stumbling blocks that we turned into stepping stones, but we've got there.